Hello, I'm Father Jim Voiss, Vice President for Mission and Ministry at Marquette University. And it is a great pleasure to be here with you today and share some reflections on an Ignatian theme. The theme for today is really about gratitude, and gratitude as something to respond to the reality we currently experience in this time of COVID. Now, I have a confession to make before I begin, and that is, I'm kind of a glass half empty kind of person. When I look at the world, I see things that need to be fixed, and when I can't fix them, I get frustrated. And so working at gratitude is really an effort for me. I have to really work myself up and consciously take time to go back to that place. I say that because I think this is what I'm going to share with you has been helpful to me, and I hope it will be helpful to you. First, let's talk a little bit about the context in which we find ourselves in the face of COVID. So much has been taken away from us because of the coronavirus. So many people have grown sick and have died. There's a staggering rate of unemployment throughout the country. Many people are on furlough. Businesses are in danger of collapse. And we can't even hug our friends and our family. It's a time of real loss. And that experience can lead us into some very desolate places. They can lead us to fear and anxiety, to depression, anger, sadness, grief, loneliness, a sense of isolation, to resentment, frustration, and even hopelessness. When we find ourselves in that kind of a space, and if some of that has been part of your experience, well, Ignatius had a word for that. It's called desolation. Desolation is that space where we lose hope, where we become dragged down and can no longer recognize the goodness of God's love for us and feel sustained by that. But we are challenged then to exercise ourselves in ways that can bring us out of it, or at least can help us to get through it until we come to a happier place. For Ignatius, the response to desolation that we are called to make is to remember our times of consolation. Remember our times of consolation. We are to feed our spirit on the gifts that we have received by remembering them. But I think the remembering that Ignatius has in mind when he gives us that advice is more than just simply recalling a fact. Oh, I had this happy day last week. No, there's something much more at stake than that. It's something that is a part of, I think, a regular element of the spiritual exercises. It's what we call an application of the senses. It's a remembering in which we focus our attention on that event or that person and try to bring them back into our conscious awareness in the most tangible way possible by using our imagination and our memory together, so that we can see and taste and feel and hear and touch in our imagination that reality as we experienced it at that time. We use those powers of memory and imagination to reconnect with the sensation of consolation so that we can once again drink deeply of it, so that we can bathe in it and let it fill us up from inside. Remembering consolation undoes the power of desolation because it moves us from a place of loss to a space of gratitude. And gratitude turns us outward with hope, trust, and with generosity of spirit. Gratitude, unlike desolation, gives us energy to act. Let me illustrate this with an example from my own life over these weeks of the COVID virus. So when COVID first struck on the campus and we had to pivot to online learning and everything was kind of shifting, the whole order of life in the campus was shifting, I, as a newcomer, was pretty much left on the sidelines watching what was going on. because all of the other people around me had very specific tasks they had to perform that were absolutely vital to getting us reoriented. What I was doing wasn't vital under that time constraint. And so for about 2 or 3 weeks, I found myself feeling like I was standing on the sidelines, helpless, with nothing that I could do. And it was a very desolate place, and the more I felt it and was attentive to it, the deeper I sank into my own desolation. As that was going on, the program coordinator for Mission and Ministry, Bridget, started pushing me to do an online Mass. I have to tell you, I was resistant. That would mean having to learn how to deal with all this technology stuff, not sure if anybody was going to watch it, is this really going to work? But ultimately, under her persuasion, I agreed. It started small, but it was also effective. It was reaching people. And then other people were getting involved in helping with the project. Most immediately, it was Father Fred Zagone, who was there from the beginning, taking turns celebrating the Masses while Bridget did the technical stuff. And then things began to grow. More people were signing in to participate in those online Masses, and I began to feel myself coming back to life again. I was reconnecting with who I am meant to be before God. To plug back into that consolation, there are different ways that I can go. The one is I can turn my memory and attention to the program coordinator, Bridget Alba, and to her vision and generosity of spirit, and can remember how she opened up my heart to look towards something that I had forgotten. Or I can look to 2 of my Jesuit brothers, Father Fred, but also Father Ryan Dunce, who jumped in, and together we made this a team effort. And as we moved along, we learned new things, and we put them into use, and we experimented, and it was exciting. Or I can think back to the Earth Day Mass that we put together, something else that I was a little bit hesitant about at the start, but which proved to be an extraordinary experience when we had a member of the Native American community come in to lead our Earth Day celebration with a smudge ceremony, with the burning of the grass, but also with a drum chant to the 4 corners of the compass, calling upon them to support us and sustain us in thinking about our world as we were preparing to enter into the Eucharist. I think back on those moments and it moves me to tears. Tears of gratitude because of the goodness of the people that I encountered. And reconnecting with those moments then helps me now when I feel a little bit down because of what's going on with COVID. Those are some examples of how I have attempted to remember in an Ignatian mode of the application of the senses. What I'd like to do right now is to talk you through an experience of that. What I'd invite you to do is to think back over the past few weeks and to identify a moment of consolation that you have experienced, a time when you felt lifted up, maybe a time when you felt like you were really true to yourself in a whole and holy kind of way, or where you felt yourself being drawn into a place of new life and growth by rising to a challenge. Let your mind go back to that place. Try to imagine it, to remember it deeply. What did you see in that moment? Were there distinctive smells? What are the sounds that you heard? The voices speaking, or maybe it was the wind blowing or rain tapping on the windowsill? What were the sounds that made up that experience? What kinds of sensations? What did your hands and body feel? Or tastes that might have been associated with it? Let your imagination take you back to that place and feel it with your senses. And when you think on this positive experience, what did it stir up inside of you? Can you bring those feelings, those elements of consolation back and let yourself dwell in them for a few moments. Savor them. Taste them. As you savor that gift, and you feel your heart begin to open, let it be moved to gratitude. And let the gratitude fill you up. Let it lift your spirits. Feel the positive energy that it releases within you. This is the dynamic that Ignatius of Loyola brings every retreatant to at the end of the spiritual exercises, when we engage in the contemplation to attain divine love. It's to attain the love that God has as we enter the world. And He leads us to that place by reminding us of how God labors on our behalf in so many hidden kinds of ways, and calls us to contemplate that deeply, so that we can be filled with a spirit of gratitude, that gratitude can lift us up and give us energy and hope, and can then turn us outward as companions of Jesus. Knowing how God labors on our behalf and grateful for so many blessings, Ignatius invites us to respond with generosity of spirit in a well-known Jesuit prayer. And I'll share that prayer with you as a conclusion. Take, Lord, and receive all my liberty. Take my memory, my understanding, my entire will. Whatsoever I have or hold, you have given to me. I give it all back to you, and surrender it wholly to be governed by your will. Give me only your love and your grace, and I am rich enough, and I ask for nothing more. Amen.